The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is episode 13C. It's a special bonus episode of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, city girl Jemmy and country boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
I am city girl Jemmy.
And I am Country Boy Glenn. Thank you for joining us on this special one-year update on our travel adventure podcast.
On this special episode, we'll be looking back on our first year of adventure, revisiting with the concept of the show and reflecting on just how far our travels have taken us, literally and figuratively. Listen in as we try to keep all four tires of this show on the road. So we are still apparently the only adventure podcasts of this kind, right? I believe so, Glenn.
Yeah, I don't know of any others that do it quite the way we do it. And I don't know of any others that have broken ribs or as many injuries as we have had in a year.
Yeah, but they also don't have you as a co-host. So that's probably the reason. But we have certainly been on our fair share of adventures. So we're going to tell you about some of the places we've been and some of the fun things that we have done. Well, the very first adventure we ever did a year ago was 10 free things to do at Disney World in one day using, and this was Glenn's crazy idea, using only Disney transportation. What were we thinking, Glenn?
I don't know. I didn't know we'd have to go through 55 security checks to get that accomplished.
Yeah, you wore the wrong belt for the occasion that day.
We had equipment, we had belts. It was just like, oh. And we went through security 7 times that day.
I know. And when we were doing that episode, you know, our concept of the show was a little different back then. It was all about the challenges that the listeners were putting together for us. And we had no idea just how unrealistic doing a show like that really was. But that episode was super fun. And they really did give us a challenge with that, 10 free things to do in Disney.
Well, and it was my idea before we started, too, that we do 10 things in one day for every adventure.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And then what we found out was it was killing us.
It was exhausting. There were broken ribs involved.
I'm too old for that.
And there wasn't really time for us to really, us to enjoy what we were doing, to really kind of flesh out what we were doing, to give the audience a full scope of the environment, the atmosphere, to really talk to the people involved. And we kind of realized we weren't doing the stops that we were going on full justice. So we pared that back a bit over the course of the last year, but I think it's really been working out.
Well, with a show like this, too, like any other podcast, you learn as you go and you learn to adapt, and a good podcast adapts.
Exactly.
And I think you're right. I think the thing that bothered us the most is we weren't doing justice to the places that were taking their time out of their day and sometimes expense to have us come over, and then we were giving them 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Or we were there for 10 minutes.
It didn't feel right. And from the listener's perspective, it wasn't fair to them either, because they're just getting like a little tiny, not even an appetizer, like a petite bouche, if you know what that means. It's like basically a tiny little one bite morsel of something. And we needed to give everybody more. So over the course of the year, we decided to give you guys more. And wow, what a year it has been. What is one of your favorite adventures overall? Like, if you were to judge all the adventures as a whole, what would you say was one of your favorites?
Boy, that's a tough one, because we did so many different things.
So many things.
If I have to say, I really had a good time, but this was part because of what it was.
Yeah.
Was cruising into Key West.
Yes.
But part of that was we were on a 4-night cruise.
I know.
So,
Who can complain about that?
Yeah, it was a good, but then we got to go to Key West, and we did have a good time in Key West. And we were kind of still trying to get a lot of things accomplished that day because we were only there one day. And I wish in a way we had Well, and we're going to go back to Key West because we need a couple days in Key West. One wasn't enough, but the whole cruise and the whole thing, and we were with friends, and it was just fun.
It was a lot of fun. And I think, okay, so if we're going to do a quick rundown of the adventures, just to recap. So 10 free things to do in Disney. We did an animal adventure all up and down Route 1. We did the Wheels of Daytona Beach. We went around the state in one day.
It's my least favorite so far.
I can't imagine why that's your least favorite. No
if you didn't
offense,
hear it,
nothing to Daytona Beach.
Daytona
Beach and all of your people were fantastic, but
the hospital was great.
It ended in the ER. Let's see. We also went to Billie Swamp Safari. We did a 10-in-1 river walking challenge in Tampa Bay, which probably was one of the last ones of that kind of era of the show.
And if you remember, we were exhausted.
No, we weren't exhausted. I was almost passed out. We were on this little
it was hot that day
boat
too.
thing on our way back at the end of the trip. And I mean, we learned a lesson in dehydration on that trip. But we might be heading back to Tampa Bay sooner than we thought. So we just got an interesting email from them. So we might be headed back. So stay tuned for that. We also went to, on that same trip, gosh, this was fantastic, Big Cat Rescue.
The work they do is amazing.
Hard to I'm trying to think of the right word. Inspiring. It was just made you a little more conscious of who we are as people and our relationship to animals. And that was a really great. But here we are at one of my favorites because, okay, I just can't get the image out of my head of Glenn the geek, country boy Glenn the cowboy getting a pedicure. We hotel hopped as part of our fancy in Fort Lauderdale trip, and wow, we landed at a spa, and Glenn's feet have never been the same.
That trip, if we're going to rate them, I think they for the stops going all out. Yeah. They probably were winners in that. Yes, they went all out.
They really did. I mean, from Mai Kai, we got such great treatment in Mai Kai. Oh my gosh. Through the hotel spots and everything.
God, the one hotel made you a seafood tower that was like $200.
I know.
They really treated us like kings and queens in Fort Lauderdale.
I kind of wouldn't have minded a rum tower from that place too. They had a whole rum room. I wouldn't mind stopping at getting that. But yeah, but that was great. And so that was probably one of my favorite trips, just collectively, And then we headed up to Tallahassee, and we got shown a lot of love up there as well.
Yes.
Our state,
and we're still thinking about all of them going through what they're going through right now.
100%. But we got to meet up with the folks at FRLA on that trip, the folks with Visit Florida on that trip. So outside of even our adventure, going to Tallahassee was just a big deal, and that was a lot of fun. But if I were to say my second favorite trip,
yeah, I figured I did with the list.
Because this pretty much was designed for Jemmy. And it was Geek versus Gamer in the Southeast. It was our 10th adventure. And I had just a time kicking your butt.
She just liked it because she was beating me all the 3 days. So.
And it was neat. But the part of that trip that sticks out the most for me was us going to 10th Level Tavern, because it was cool to have the green screen treatment and doing a Facebook Live of us doing a Tetris competition. It was awesome having my brother along and him getting in on the fun. So that was a great, I nerd out. You're the geek, but I nerd out when it comes to
you did.
So that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we headed up to the middle of the state. We just did the Small Towns Coast to Coast, which
I really liked, because I liked, I'm an improv theater guy, so it was kind of felt like improv theater.
Yeah, because it was freestyle adventure.
Yeah, we just that went, and we've developed some good relationships out of that trip too. That are going to lead to some things coming up.
That's true. That is very, very true. And of course, we went and visited with FRLA again. They invited us to their restaurant show. Apparently, they didn't get enough of us when we went up to Tallahassee. They didn't mind. We didn't leave that bad of an impression. They invited us to their show. So we did that. And then, we just did the whole Oktoberfest anniversary brouhaha for this last episode. We have had a year, Glenn.
Well, I have some statistics here for you.
Okay. I can't wait to hear it.
So in that year, we made 77 stops. We stopped at 77 places.
Wow, are there any places left? What are we going to do in our second year?
77 stops. If you think about it, that's a lot of stops in 1 year for a podcast.
That is a lot of stops.
We did 90 interviews with people, whether they be, the A episodes of the B. We did 90 interviews that year.
I hear that, and I hear 90 bad impressions. Sorry to all of you.
We stayed at 16 different hotels.
Wow. Feels like more. I don't know why, but it feels like more.
Yeah, it does. And then we ate at 60 different restaurants.
Jeez.
So we did a lot.
My tummy is so happy. Wow, that is a lot.
Well, if you think about it, we were gone 2 or 3 days on almost every adventure, and you have to eat a couple times a day.
That is true. And some of us got force-fed sushi, and it was awesome.
And then some of us got force-fed frog's legs, and it was awesome.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun, but of course there were some lowlights. Once in a while, things don't go quite as planned. I know what my low light was. We kind of already mentioned it. It was, getting dragged and sitting with you in the damn ER at Daytona. Let me tell you, that is not how you want to cap off anything.
Let me tell you, she makes fun of that and she does all that, but she went into super mommy mode there and got pretty nurturing.
Well,
Tough Jemmy went away.
We're traveling.
You were just afraid that Jennifer, my wife, would kill you.
She has to sign permission slips and everything. I take the job very seriously. Yeah, I had to drive your truck home. That was actually fun. You know what? I'm changing it to a highlight. Driving your big old pickup truck was great. That was awesome. Well, what was your low light? Do you have any?
Well, that would be one of my low lights. I think not being able to finish that trip too. Yeah, we had so much other stuff planned that was really fun, and we just didn't get to finish it. One of my highlights has been listening to you scream on almost every adventure.
Oh my gosh, yes. You have made it like mission one. I swear, there's something in you that says in every single phone call to when you're scheduling these adventures, I wouldn't be surprised if I were fly on the wall every single time. Is there any way you can make my co-host scream?
That's true.
I've screamed. That's another stat. I have screamed in hot rods. I've screamed on a zip line.
We've had a few, and there's more to come. There's more of that, I'm sure. Joy. I think one of my lowlights was eating sushi and handling snakes. Those two things. And they're about even, I think.
I can't imagine why on either of those. You handled it like a champ, Glenn. You're great. I loved it.
Is there anything I made you do that you just didn't like?
I'm going to say no. I think there have been moments where I anticipated not liking it, where I've walked in blindly, like not knowing what was going to happen. But no, I take it back. Yes. Eating frog's legs. Yes, you made me eat frog's legs, and that wasn't that great. But everything else has been fantastic.
One of the other things we found along the way that I wasn't expecting is how many animals love Jemmy. She just gets kissed by every dog.
I actually was talking to a friend about that. I was holding her dog like a little baby the other day, and I was saying how you tell me, Jemmy, stop putting your face in dogs' faces. You don't know them. I'm like, but they're cute. Right. I love them.
These pit bulls kissing her.
I'm a lover of animals, and they love me back. What can I say? So, yeah, we've had an amazing, amazing first year. Here are a few highlight clips.
We're right on time.
Which is already amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that'll change.
Oh my God,
the clown got trampled too.
I don't know if I can handle this.
Oh my God.
We are witnessing firsthand that things are popping in Key West.
Oh my God. The alcohol is flowing.
Oh, we need to go get some. Let's go get some.
Would you want to be in Minnesota right now? Exactly, right? So here we are in beautiful Tampa Bay.
Gene's going to take me out for a spin in my first sidecar ride, and you're going to hear it. We're on a back road in the middle of nothing. Say hi, Florida.
Hi, Florida. Glenn and I are finding fear in Tallahassee.
That's a woman thing.
It is not a woman thing.
It's a woman thing.
It's not a woman thing.
It's a woman thing. Women are more picky about parking in the shade than men ever would be.
I don't like to melt. I'm sorry. I am chocolate after all.
You're something. Well, of course, the adventure episodes are only half our show. The other half is our A episodes, and Jemmy puts a ton of work into those. Those are really her baby, and we get. It's ironic that we get comments on the adventure episodes, but we get more comments on the A episodes from listeners.
Well, the A episodes are really designed so, there's always something for everyone, no matter what the theme is of the adventure that month. The A episode is going to satisfy all palates.
Yeah, you don't have to be from Florida. So yeah.
No. So whether you're a Florida enthusiast or you like to poke fun at us, it's in there. It's in the preview episodes. So the way the preview episodes are designed, and this is really a PSA for anybody who may think we don't need to listen to yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. So the preview episodes, we talk a lot about our destination, which is your favorite part of it. You actually really do a great job contributing some history on the thing that we're about to do, which is very interesting. And then,
well, I think the reason I like doing that is I think people travel to destinations and they never look up the history of that. They look, what can we do when we're there now? But they don't take a look at the past.
Exactly. And it's been fascinating for me too, because, I've lived here almost my entire life, and there's so much that I've already learned about our state. And it's funny because starting the show is all about Florida pride and poking fun at ourselves, but, being proud of our state. And after hearing all of the history and all the bits and pieces and all the cross cultures and everything, it's like I'm even more proud today than I was a year ago.
Well, and I think, too, that and this has surprised you, and we've had more of these conversations, to get serious here for a minute, we've had more of these conversations in the car probably than we have on the air. Yeah. But I think that finding out about the African-American history has surprised you sometimes.
Yeah, it really has. And not only just the facts of it, but also, obviously I've lived my whole life being African-American, but still hearing certain stories or being in certain places, it's a different experience. When you're hit in the face with that history, it just it affects you. And so, I talk about a moving experience was me having an opportunity to sing in a historically Black church at the Tallahassee Museum. I mean, that alone that gives me chills.
That's probably the most emotional I've seen you on any of our trips.
Yeah, that was another level. That really was great. So there's a lot of those kind of moments in the preview episodes where, not the singing moments, that was a part of the adventure, but the moments where you're listening to the history and you can really dive in and understand more about our state. And I think it's really, really important. And so obviously sometimes we also have an interview with someone from, the tourist board or whatever of the place we're going. But then the back half of the episode is just some general Florida segments and different bits. And so I love putting those together because as I'm pulling audio and finding fun stories and different tidbits and fun things about Florida to talk about, I just always am imagining your reaction. And I'm giggling as I'm putting these clips together. But so we have bits like the community clipboard was just something interesting about our community here or something special. And then some really hilarious stuff like Critters of Florida. My gosh, it seems like everything is trying to kill us.
It's true. It is true.
In Florida. And then there's the famous caricature of the Florida man and also the Florida woman. Come on, let's spread it around. And so those stories end up usually in the bits called Florida or Florida or not, which I love seeing whether or not Glenn could guess if the story I'm telling him actually happened in Florida. And then as we're traveling, we also come across a lot of, as you said, 60 restaurants, a lot of yummy food, a lot of yummy drinks. So we put those in the Florida Foods and Feel Goods bit. And then one of my other favorites, and we don't have too many of these yet, but one of my other favorites is the FML, which is Florida by Life. It's a little play on the other way you can say it. So it's Florida by Life, and it's things about living in Florida, like getting swamp ass in the middle of summer or dealing with hurricanes and that type of stuff that's just like, and I think one of your favorites, and again, it's been a little while since we've done one, but the mystery sound segments. You've always kind of taken to those.
Yeah, I like the mystery sound segments. Yeah.
And then we usually end with, I try to bring one of these every episode, but our hero of the month, there are some really amazing people in our state doing really great things. So we do a lot to highlight in the preview episode, just kind of an overall swath of what makes Florida interesting, fun, and unique.
One thing we haven't talked about that has been, I wouldn't say the most surprising for me, but has been something that I've truly enjoyed, and that's meeting the people we've met.
Yes.
And whether they're scheduled interviews or we just meet them randomly, we've met some of the most interesting people that I really hope that at some point in our future that we have time for another show or for whatever we decide to do with it. While we're there, I hope we have time to do a much longer interview with some of these people because they have stories to tell that are amazing. And, I don't care what we call it, the people of Florida, but I think that that's one thing that we have not had the opportunity to do the best we can do. It's because of time and everything else is to get to know some of the people like, God, the guy that took us on the ride in the sidecar.
I knew you were going to say it.
He was telling us he's 80, what? He was 80, 78 or 80.
80 something.
He's got cancer. He's a super nice guy. Yet he was telling us some of the history and some of the pictures he had on the walls of his history dating back to World War II. And I just wanted to interview him for an hour.
His motorcycle shop alone was practically a museum. Like there was just artifacts and relics from bygone eras, as they say, and it was very interesting. And so you have people. It runs such a range because we have some people like him, and then we also have. I always think about the 3 girls we met on the very first adventure coming off the bus. They were drunk as skunks, and it was so much fun. It's all kinds of people that we meet on these adventures, or even like just going to Beauty and the Beef and meeting Mario, who came all the way from Montreal and brought Bruno with him, and they are becoming restaurateurs down here in Florida. So everyone has a story. And you know what I think about? I think about how there's a history to Florida, but every person here has their own history. And some of that's most interesting stuff.
And partly because I think, 75% of the state has to be imports.
Probably. I mean, every time when I meet someone who's born here, I'm like, really?
No, you lived here your whole life and haven't moved?
Even my own kid, I'm like, really? You were born here? Really? Still a surprise.
But that's because, so they come with their own stories, which is what makes it such a diverse state.
Absolutely. And they come from all over, too. All over the country, all over the world. It's fascinating. Well,
what did we determine on the last episode? Cubans are the number one
import
subset. Subset of any of the nationalities. It's Cuban.
Yeah.
So and then it was Germans.
Maybe we'll explore the whole Cuban stuff even more when we go back to Tampa Bay.
When we go to Tampa, we can certainly do that for sure. And I know that you want to eat some more Cuban food.
Amen.
So is there something that you would like to see in future? We haven't talked about this, but is there something you would like to see in future adventures that we haven't done yet?
It's funny. So we've kind of,
and I don't mean places, but
no concepts. Yeah, we've kind of tap danced and tiptoed a little bit around doing water stuff. And for both of we have individual reasons, which we don't need to divulge. We have individual reasons why water makes both of us each nervous.
Yours is easy. It's your hair.
And so, we've done things like the water bikes, again, in Tampa. We did the speedboat ride on the Key West adventure.
Oh, my God. The Bahamas.
I'm still pressing my hair
My back is
down.
still recovering from that. Jet boat.
It was amazing. But we haven't done anything where we've actually touched water. So I'd be interested to see us figure out something along those lines. But how about you?
Yeah, I think that's one thing we've missed because it is such a water state.
I mean, apparently, and I was looking back at stuff, and I think it says everywhere in Florida is within 60 miles of water. So we need to get it together.
Yeah, we need to do that. And one of the other things we've been toying with, and I think this would be fun for listeners too, is we have so many inclusive resorts in this state. We've talked about going to a resort and spending the whole time there and actually doing kind of a challenge between the two of us, doing resort things.
Yeah.
And that even comes down to working with the housekeeping staff and, and making up a room and who does better, working with the chef and having a cook-off contest and really just getting to know the people at the resort. Yeah. Because one of the things that we learned, look, when we were in Tampa and we stayed at that wonderful hotel that was the old courthouse.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And then we talked to the gentleman whose family had been, working in that area for
Steve. He's a bellhop.
generations. Yeah. And he was been a bellhop there and he just knew everybody. And I just want to get to know the people. I really want to do an episode that's all about the people who work someplace.
Guys, I don't know if you're hearing the same thing I'm hearing. Glenn needs some friends.
Yeah, that's it. But that's a good point. That's one of the things I think we've made all over the state is friends.
That is true. And also we've randomly run into friends of friends, like finding out after the fact that Pete from the Crumb Box in Tallahassee is practically a almost blood brother of one of my good friends. I call him Ponton, Joe Ponton. And when Ponton figured out that I had interviewed his friend, it's just kind of funny. It's like, how do you know Pete? In fact, Ponton's headed up to Tallahassee this weekend. I said, send me a picture of you and Pete. I want to post it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot more growth that we can do. I think we're learning every time we go out. We're learning something.
Yeah, and you know what? And on that note,
and we're learning something to hopefully make it a better show for the listeners.
We hope so. So if you can contribute to that effort, then send your ideas, your thoughts, your feedback to Jemmy at JAIME at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com or Glenn, GLENN at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com. And we'd love to, take that and run with it. So hopefully you guys come up with something good.
And I think you gave me a number today that shocked the heck out of me. When we started the show, we were really targeting it to Florida residents looking for things to do in their own backyard.
Yeah, staycations or random weekend events and things like that. Yeah.
And we knew people outside of Florida would listen because everybody comes to Florida at some point, right, for vacation. Everybody in the United States will come to Florida.
Travel and tourism is our number one industry.
Yeah. And I think you were shocked as I was when you looked at the numbers today and saw that only 30% of our downloads and listeners come from Florida. 70% is from outside Florida.
Yes. Which
I don't know what that tells me. It kind of surprises me.
Loving that, to be honest. I love that. And the reason why I love that is because there are far more people outside of Florida than there are inside of Florida. And these are people who are going to then come to our state and they're going to really add some extra travel and tourism dollar value to our economy here. So that really makes me stoked. If it was like a really piddle number, like a 5%er from Florida, I'd be like a little heartbroken because I feel like we're not reaching people who are right here, but we are. I think we're doing a solid job reaching people who are here and then a really solid job reaching people who are wanting to be here. So that's great.
Yeah, I think that was a surprise. And we need more interaction. We'd love to have more interaction with our listeners.
Yeah. I mean, people are sending in comments and hitting us up on social media and stuff, but gosh, we really want those numbers to charge up a little bit more because that is part of what makes this so extra fun is just getting people's feedback. So we have a Facebook group that we started. It's called the Fpn Insiders. It's really for any show on the Florida Podcast Network, but this is really primarily the only show on the network right now. And so it's for fans of the network to go in there and interact and just celebrate all kinds of things about Florida. And it's fun because a lot of what goes on in that room ends up driving some of the content on the show and hopefully on all the other future shows. So in fact, a little side note announcement, there is another show very close to being finished and put on paper and inked in the works. So I'm very excited and it'll be announced first in the Insiders. So go to Facebook and look up the FPN Insiders group for that announcement that'll be coming up.
And if you're looking at wanting to start a show in Florida, we should talk about this more.
Yeah.
The Florida Podcast Network can help you do that. We help people produce shows and get them off the ground successfully because between Jemmy and I, we do have a few years of experience doing this. Just a few. And
thousands of episodes, guys.
Almost 8,000 between the two of us now. So we definitely would entertain any idea that you have and talk to you about it. So if you want to start a podcast, and I know a number of you have mentioned that, and it involves Florida, let us know.
Yeah, it can be almost anything as long as it's Florida focused. We'd love to chat you up and see what ideas and what damage we can do. Oh, man. So thank you for supporting the show, supporting the network, for coming along with us on all of these adventures over the past year. Florida really, 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 really doesn't know what hit it when we started this show. But we've had such a good time going through all of this stuff. So subscribe to the show and look up past episodes, along with all the photos from our fun times, links, videos, show notes, and social media links. All that fun stuff is at findingfloridapodcast.com. And all the information for what Glenn was just talking about pitching your own show to us is at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com.
Also, we want to thank everybody that helped us from all the tourist bureaus and everybody that helped us put all these adventures on. They really made it everything. Everybody, the people that put up with us unexpectedly, where we just stop in.
We throw a microphone in their face. Say, can we talk to you?
I mean, it just
never happens.
Everybody that's been involved has been so gracious, and some of the tourist bureaus in this state have just gone out of their way to make it a wonderful adventure for you and for us and for everybody involved. So thank you to all of them. We're so proud of being hosts and producers for the flagship show on the Florida Podcast Network. That is our Finding Florida podcast. The Florida Podcast Network is on a mission to celebrate Florida one local voice at a time. And you can find the Finding Florida podcast and all the shows on the network, including the new ones that Jemmy was just talking about, at floridapodcastnetwork.com.
And as Glenn and I explore all the amazing sights and sounds, I mean, what, 70 down of however many
77 stops down, 2,000 to go.
So as we continue our trek through the Sunshine State, exploring all those amazing sights and sounds, we hope you'll come along, not just on the fun with us, but join us behind the scenes on Facebook, share your Florida story, be part of the community and our adventure. Our big goal is to still help you find your next Florida adventure. So no matter where you are on social media, post your pics with the hashtag FindingFL, and we'll be sure to share them. And on that note,
here's to your next Florida adventure.